meeting to order, and welcome. I see some new faces out here, so welcome again. First item up is announcements. We have the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Video Ed Day. Let's roll the movie.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak tonight that didn't sign up?
Hello and welcome to the County Update video for October 2017. This video is produced by the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners each month to keep county officials informed about association activities. On Saturday, August 12th, the NCACC wrapped up its 110th annual conference in Durham County. The event culminated with the swearing in of the NCACC's 101st president, Durham County Commissioner Brenda Howardson. During the business session of the conference, Ronnie Smith, Macon County Commissioner, was elected to serve as the association's next second vice president. In addition, commissioners voted for Surrey County Commissioner Larry Phillips to serve as president-elect, and Yadkin County Commissioner Kevin Austin to serve as first vice president. Furthermore, Davidson County Commissioner Fred McClure became immediate past president. During the conference, several individuals were honored for their support of counties. Fred McClure, NCACC immediate past president, and Davidson County Commissioner received the Outstanding County Commissioner Award. Delilah Blanks, former Bladen County Commissioner and NCACC past president, David Thompson, former NCACC Executive Director, and Danny Wright, former Vance County Commissioner and NCACC past president, were all inducted into the NCACC Hall of Fame. Michael Sprayberry, Director of North Carolina Emergency Management, received the Friends of the Counties Award, and the UNC School of Government received the Distinguished Service Award. Additionally, several counties were recognized by the Local Government Federal Credit Union and the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service for establishing innovative practices that improve services for citizens. You can view those award recipients and more information on all NCACC awards by visiting ncacc.org. NCACC President Brenda Howardson introduced her presidential initiative titled 100 Counties, Helping Our Children Thrive. It will focus on how counties can support the growth and development of children. At a related event, the NCACC partnered with the NC School Boards Association and the UNC School of Government's NC Impact Team to discuss pre-kindergarten and early education investments in North Carolina at a recent meeting in Chapel Hill. The program, titled Thinking Big for Small People, Why Are NC County Leaders So Enthusiastic About Pre-K for 4-year-olds, was specifically designed for local policymakers curious about pre-K and actively considering pre-K expansion options and creating strategies to reach more children. NCACC President Brenda Howardson and Executive Director Kevin Leonard presented at the event. You can visit the UNC School of Government website for more information. Several steering committees will meet in the coming months. The dates and locations of those meetings will be available soon at ncacc.org/steering committees. You can also sign up to participate in steering committees on that webpage. NCACC Board of Trustees had their annual retreat in September, where they heard detailed reports on the state of the association risk pools. The NCACC Board of Directors will meet in Dare County in October, as President Howardson will lead her first meeting as president. The NCACC Executive Committee and officials from the League of Municipalities met with Governor Roy Cooper in Raleigh in September to discuss issues important to local governments. There's a wealth of information on our website about other NCACC events and resources, including the County Map Book, progress on county leadership forums on opioid abuse, information on county best practices, and you can read more about any of the topics we've discussed here. Well, that wraps it up for this month. Thank you for watching and allowing us to keep you updated on your association's activities. If we can help you or answer any questions, please feel free to contact us directly using the information on your screen. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
All right, any further announcements?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to just bring it up for discussion. Possibility of having a joint meeting sometime in November. That'll be next month. And if the board would be willing to entertain that thought, I'll go ahead and begin communicating with the town officials at both town of Franklin and the town of Highlands to get that set up. Again, there'll be a special call meeting that we will set at our November regularly scheduled meeting. So in between that time, and if the board so desires, I'll begin communicating with those officials and try to get that set up. It is our turn to host that meeting.
Any objection? Anybody good with that? I presume, just from prior discussion, this is going to be held at the new community building.
Yes.
You're ready to be building that. I think is it going to be opening, looks like real soon?
Really soon,
2 weeks.
yes. Should be getting the paving done.
We're going to have an opening ceremony or?
Yes,
anything
and
like that?
we will probably work that in with that joint meeting and have a combination there.
It's a good thought.
And also, one more quick thing, if you'll recall, the Southwestern Commission was working kind of parallel to the Broadband Committee in looking at regional broadband expansion. The first step in that process is a broadband survey they have released to the 7 western counties. If you'll look on your screens here, Macon County has included a link to that survey on our website, and I don't know if we can click on that and just kind of show a little bit about what's going to be going on there. Anyway, that survey is going to be an excellent tool, and it's going to assist that regional broadband study. I think it would be good if we could fill that out and just talk about it, promote it, because again, they have an effort that is running parallel to ours, and I think that survey is going to be very useful to them and serve as a tool during that process. So again, just a reminder, we do have a link to that survey on our county website, and would encourage everyone, every resident of Macon County, if available, to take that survey.
Any further? We'll all rise. We'll observe a moment of silence and I'll ask Commissioner Leslie, please, to pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comment period. I don't have anybody signed up. Anybody like to address the board?
Not time to get.
Chris? Anybody else? No? Additions to the agenda?
Let's make it 9B,
Under reports?
reports and presentation, like to update the board on the November 11th, Veterans Day,
Okay.
and at the same time, the Charter of Freedom, we're going to have unveiling of those at that time.
Okay.
That'll be on Saturday, November 11th. The program will start at 11, but at 10:30, they'll have a parade through town.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll talk a little more about that. Mike?
If the board would please do consider that 2018 holiday schedule that I emailed to you after the agenda packet went out.
Okay, nine. Let's put up new business 11C.
Okay. And also, if you will please, another addition to appointments, consideration of Brett Murphy's reappointment to the EDC. That would be the 4th EDC appointment for the agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Let's go ahead there.
if we could add under new business, item 11D, that will be discussion of wastewater treatment at Nantahala School. We have Coach Gibbs here with us tonight. He's going to come and speak to the board about that. The reason this did not get included in your agenda packet is because I think we're recently finding out that the timelines will occur before our next board meeting. And also, I think it was just found out late last week that it would have to, that the county is going to play a role in the grant application process for this project. Coach Gibbs has been working with Mr. John Fate, our housing director, and they'll be able to talk to you more about that and fill you in on the details when the 11 comes.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, under 9C, a short report on our latest RPO meeting about a road detail. We'll bring the board up to speed on what we want to get, what we didn't get, and what good news, and mostly good news from the DOT.
Anything else? Esther, you worried? All right, good. All right. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So we're set.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
I give them up.
No old business, we'll move on to new business, actually report presentation, sorry. 9A, Community Advisory Committee Appointment Process. Sarah Jane Melton, Area Agency on Aging Administrator for the Southwestern Commission. Welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and energy tonight. I'm Sarah Jane Melton. I work for Southwestern Commission. I'm the Area Agency on Aging Director, and I have with me Larry Reeves, who is the Long-Term Care Ombudsman. And we are just bringing this information. We met with Derek a week or so ago. This new House Bill 248, was vetted and approved by the County Commissioner Association. The reason for the House bill came basically as a directive from the Administration on Community Living that North Carolina was not appointing their volunteers for this specific committee correctly. We were not following the process that was approved by the Administration for Community Living on the federal level, which, if you will, is the Federal Division of Adult Services. And so we're bringing this as information. We're not asking for any appointments tonight for this committee. It is the Community Advisory Committee for Long-Term Care Facilities, and you have 3 long-term care facilities in your county. Yeah, 5. Larry will tell you how many you have. So it's an information so that when it comes to the point that you need to appoint someone for that committee, you'll understand the new process. Okay?
Good evening. To speak to House Bill 248, it was passed in July by the General Assembly and it became a matter of law. And it did change the process of the appointment of community advisory committees. Prior to July, community advisory committees were appointed by the Board of Commissioners, and then they would notify the long-term care ombudsman, in this case the regional ombudsman, that's what I do. Then you would notify the ombudsman that somebody had been appointed, and then it became the responsibility of the long-term care ombudsman to get that person trained and up and going. Well, the process has changed now with the passing of 248. What happens now is if there are vacancies on your community advisory committee for long-term care, and you have a joint committee here in Macon County, which means you cover adult care homes and nursing homes, one committee services both levels of care. What happens now, and what will need to happen in the future, is if there is a vacancy that occurs, someone resigns or someone comes off the committee, the regional long-term care ombudsman would need to work with the clerk to the board and to notify the board and the county that there is a vacancy that exists on that committee. What will happen in the future is instead of appointing that person right away, you will simply nominate the person that is going to come on the community advisory committee to the regional long-term care ombudsman. It would become my responsibility at that point in time to do the vetting, to make sure that the person wanted to serve, that they did not have any conflicts of interest, that they understood what the appointment to the committee would be about, and then also it would be my responsibility to train them and orient them to the job. And once that task is completed, then I would refer to the state long-term care ombudsman saying the person's ready now to be designated, and this is the key term, to be designated as a member of the community advisory committee. If the state long-term care ombudsman approves that designation, they notify me, then I notify you that the person is ready for appointment. And then you would appoint them initially to a 1-year term, and then if they serve that and things are well, then following that would be 3-year terms.
terms as the current system works. There is another difference that comes with House Bill 248, and that is up until this point in time, we have never had a way to remove someone from a committee that wasn't serving effectively or that had a conflict of interest. It used to be we'd appoint them and they'd stay on there till they died. It was a life sentence. I think Doc Crawford's been on there since 1986. I mean, a long time. So, you know, we've got a way now where if someone doesn't serve, if they do not attend the meetings, if there are problems that they create in a facility or in a long-term care community that is a difficult problem that we can't resolve easily, and if they have, you know, that conflict of interest that exists, that they've got a family member in the building or they're getting money somehow paid or whatever, and they do not notify the regional ombudsman of that conflict of interest, and I happen to find that out, then I notify the state long-term care ombudsman. They de-designate that person, and when a person is de-designated, then I notify you that this person has been de-designated. At that point in time, you have to rescind their appointment. And so that's all in the law of 248. It's pretty clear, but we wanted to make sure that we explain that to each of our Board of Commissioners and to our county managers. So we've been attempting to do that. Now I realize that you all have a lot of committees and a lot of agencies and boards that you appoint folks for, but this is a very important one as your long-term care community advisory committee. They go into the buildings, they know what's happening in our long-term care community in all 5 facilities here in Macon County. They know what's going on because we're in there visiting. And then they also know what's going on in the bigger world of long-term care because we get continuous education about that. So they're very knowledgeable about the whole long-term care world, if you will. So that's basically why we're here tonight, to tell you all about that. Told you more than you wanted to know.
No, that's good.
That's great.
Clears up.
And if there's any way that, you know, that I can help, if there's any questions that come up, please do not hesitate to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing we can see, like we discussed this at the association, is that the rural counties, when it goes to Raleigh, you know, to get people to serve, it's hard enough to get people to serve this committee now. And when it goes to Raleigh, you know, who knows? I mean, they got to be vetted here, got to be vetted in Raleigh, and then come back, and you can't get people to serve the way it is. And they, if you read it, the culture thing, it specifies, you know, how long that process is. We don't know exactly where it comes from. We have to get out.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
And we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shields, update on Veterans Day, November 11th, charters and the charters of the freedom unveiling.
November 11th is on a Saturday, and at Gazebo here, we'll have our Veterans Day program. We'll have a parade that starts at 10:30. Then we'll have we're going to do it a little bit different this year, 11 o'clock. We're going to have instead of having speakers, we're going to have a musical Veterans Day. Then actually have that program. We're going to transition over to across the street, beside the courthouse, and we're going to have the unveiling of the Charter of Freedom, which is the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights. And if it had been for the veterans, we wouldn't have that. So we feel like it's good to bring this together that day. And Mr. Rowland has been a real asset in communication with Mr. Schneider. It's going to happen on that day, and we're looking forward to it.
10:30, you said the parade.
Where do you think the dedication
Probably, it'll be close to 12:30. What happens here, go through the program, then the VFW take over laying of the reef, 21 gun salutes and taps. Then after taps, we'll transition to their mic system over there. And I'm sure at that time you'll have someone from the Charter of Freedom who will make some comments. Then we'll have Mr. Corbin, Representative Corbin, some other people who will make comments about it. And I think Mr. Tate will probably put on the spot of being a spokesperson for the county. And hope to see all of you there. We feel like it's going to be a a good thing, because it's going to be a musical. It's going to involve the Franklin High School band, the chorus, the White Sisters, Blue Ridge. So we're going to have a great fellowship that day.
Thank you. Commissioner Bell?
We did meet with Ryson City to get an update to see how we came out with our request for upgrade on our DOT projects. The regional impact on US 64 with the Clay County line, that construct climbing lanes and turning lanes and select locations. That, of course, some of that's underway now, and the rest of that has been approved. Construction date has not been set. State Road 1372, the Alden Church Road, has been approved. That's the Vernon County Road, if you don't know, it's modernized, that and widen and shoulder that roadway. State Road 1667, Wells Grove Road. That's on Warrior Street, going to school, you know, the middle grade MBI. With curb and gutter, have a real drainage problem now around the school. That has been approved and has been scheduled probably for 1920, not 1920, but 2019, 2020. And Harrison Avenue, Riverview Street, rehab that surface road. The rest of them are interior. But we're so proud to announce that, which we've asked for, and that we did, and the DOT did agree to really move up the Belden Circle Bridge, the one-lane bridge behind the new Ingalls. It's on tap very early in 2018. So, don't know about the improvements of that road. You know, as local, we think that road is going to be well used. Coming out of that new Ingalls, coming back that way. So that did get moved up. That was one of the top requests that we had made. And we asked that whole interchange there, as you come back toward, we eventually will come through there, come by the entrance to Kmart and get back on the 4-lane. And the county entrance, they seem to agree with that scenario and have agreed to look at that. And another road we put on the top priority and made our points list was, of course, Buck Creek Road. Buck Creek Road, as we know, has become, as the construction is picked back up, is now, for those of us who traveled it, although we're sitting up here traveling a lot, more and more the big trucks are using Buck Creek, these others just have paving to authorize you to turn off the 64 at Cold Mountain. And that did move up, and that moved up to number 1 as far as our priorities, because of not only the number of cars, they've done the traffic count, not us, but the trucks that are now using Buck Creek Road, as you well know, and the volume. I think what sealed the deal was during the 2 storms, both those accesses were cut off, as was Scaly Mountain access. They was really, other than going down to Seal and back up 107, they was nothing. So that prioritized that road. So all in all, this is the best in our prioritization that we had since this wonderful point system come out. That we have done, and we hope we see it to fruition. The 441, if you will, before you turn at the red light, before you get to McDonald's, down to the fairgrounds and a little patch beyond, that is, of course, that got moved up on schedule. That is still scheduled for 2018, and so we're glad to see that. As we all know, that's a very dangerous venture road. So that was moved up last year from 2022. So all in all, we think we did okay. We did after the resurfacing of 441, drive that road, try to get to see what it needs. So so with all those things combined, we think we did okay. Mr. Birch will now be our division engineer after December. Mr. Green has retired. Mr. Birch is acting division engineer, and was announced that he will become the division engineer after the December meeting. So we have a good relationship between this board and the county. So we're glad to see that.
Can you give us an update on the bridge?
The town reached 18%, wasn't it? They're 18% complete on schedule. What we were told, 18% complete on schedule. As long as the John votes.
Moving on to new business, item A, consideration of resolution approving document changes to allow use of bond proceeds for landfill equipment. Finance Director, Ms. Lori Hall.
I'll defer to Chris.
Welcome, Chris.
Hey, I didn't know you were going to be.
No, I'll just kind of say that, Chris talked to me, a month or two ago and said, hey, there's really some equipment out that I need in relation to this landfill sale. And I said, no. Yeah, I was pretty sure, we need to, we have to have a modification, to the existing, special obligation documents. So I reached out to Bob Jessup, who was our special counsel on that issue, and what's in your big packet is a modification agreement and a resolution prepared by Bob Jessup, which will allow Chris to purchase this equipment with some of the bond proceeds. And I'll let Chris explain how much this equipment needs to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I believe, I can't remember in what form, but these items were noted in my budget. Just didn't account for them in my regular budget dollars, anticipating using the bond revenue to purchase these two pieces of equipment. This is not replacement equipment. This is new equipment, equipment that we haven't necessarily needed before. The big ticket item is an excavator. We've got about 7 new said basins, 2 of which empty directly into either a stream within 50 feet or wetlands basically touching the said basin. We designed these, or I requested these basins be designed so that they could be maintained. They're not ponds, they're more racetracks, so that we can reach from either side with a track hoe and keep the silt collected and out of where we don't want it, so that we don't get in violation of our NPDES code. The second item is a mower or mowers, depending on kind of what we go with. We've looked at about 5 different mowers. One more we're waiting on to see what it's all about. But turns out we got 8.5 acres of landfill and about 50 acres of steep slopes. Nothing we have will mow that. A lot of the slopes are so steep. I really don't even want the guys on it. And so looking at various steep slope mowers to try to keep up with the mowing on around cell 3, but then once it's closed and capped, also of course will help us maintain cell 2, cells 1 and 2. Funds exist. I think the last change order wasn't it for a 400,000?
303,682.
I was thinking big, but anyway, the money is in the bond. It was anticipated spending it this way. I just didn't specifically call out the equipment in listing the using of the funds.
And I've already reached out to the local federal commission as well as in everything. Both parties are agreeable to allowing us to use part of the funds for these purposes.
All right, Chris, see what you're saying with the silt. You're going to pop it out with the excavator. You have your own dump trucks you're going to haul it out with, and then how frequently do you expect this to happen?
Well, I mean, obviously a few times a year, depending on how much rain we get. Again, since we went with more of a narrow kind of track style, certainly want to keep it maintained more often than never that we maintain the current ponds.
You think it's better just asking, and you obviously think it is, but I
Yeah.
can't help but ask.
Go ahead.
Do you think it's better to spend that much money on an excavator and we operate it and do that several times per year than it is to have somebody come in and do it on an hourly basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean,
Could you use the excavator for
Yes,
other stuff? Okay.
yeah.
Besides that?
I hope this is in there, but yes, the other reason, we've always used a loader and a dump truck, because if a piece of equipment went down in the landfill, we could always move the loader over and at least kind of place garbage. And it's 100, 200 yards from the working face of the borrow area, so I never really felt the need to have the efficiency of an excavator. But once we cap cell 2 and are over on cell 3 exclusively, basically the second portion, and I keep saying phase, but it's phase 3, it's cell 1 of phase 3, and it used to be cell 3 of phase 1 of cell 3. Anyway, doesn't matter. The next one that we're going to build, we are going to excavate that soil for daily cover in what we're using to help reduce the cost for grading the next time we need to do an expansion. And because historically we've had just kind of a wide open spot and we've just kind of cut it out in lifts to let it work fine, this is going to need to be more confined and kind of deep and quick repair, deep and quick repair. So even just our daily cover, once we move over to cell 2 of phase 3 and start excavating, we're really going to need the excavator loaders. Not going to be conducive to what we need to, how we need to manage that pipe.
And again, just making sure that it's more cost productive to do that on our own versus somebody who's going to do that occasionally on an hourly basis. $150 an hour, it takes a lot to go up to $175,000. So.
Sure that.
And then on the mowers, that's sort of my business. So. I'm not familiar with these. I've seen them, but I don't know about the reliability or anything else. So I don't know. Have you seen? Is there anyone else use these?
I'm constantly doing research, looking for more information because it's a fairly new technology. This is a machine that we've demoed. This is a ride-on machine. Absolutely scared the hell out of me. And here's some of there's some of the others. The primary benefit is these mowers have such a low center of gravity. They don't need to be as heavy. So even the one with the operator, if you're brave enough to do it and it's stable, when you turn, you're still going to be tearing up the slope. It's just going to dig in. There's no way around that. So these are a lot lighter. Most of them are tracked machines. So much less damage to the slope as you're trying to maintain it. The other thing is, if one of these flips over, you can kick it back over and keep going. That's obviously not the case if we had a man on these slopes. And I don't know how many of you have visited the site, but you really have a lot of steep slopes right now.
How many of these
For 100,000. If the one that we haven't demoed yet, I would get two. One that's larger that goes up to a 30% grade, and then one that's slightly smaller that'll do a 70% grade. By contrast, if we don't go with that, if we go with like that ride-on, that machine's $96,000. So that would just have to carry the day.
How often is this mowing?
Generally, we mow 3 times a year, but keeping in mind that between showers and having a man to operate, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 weeks just to get from one end to the other.
Could we look to outsource it now?
Have not.
Is that a viable option?
It could be. I wouldn't I wouldn't discount it as an option. It's just a matter of, once we're over there, it gets a little trickier. I mean, places we're not is fine, the places we are, it's a little sketchy.
I mean, if we can outsource it and the work be done as efficiently, for less cost, it seems like that would be logical thing to work on.
Yeah, and I haven't priced it, but I have thought about it. Just the fact that tying one of my guys up for basically the whole summer to make 3 passes is not something. One of these has a GPS, but that technology is not ready yet. But once we this is a step to that where with the GPS equipment that we have on our equipment and adding another rover, we could 3D map the landfill and just tell the mower to go out at 2 a.m. and do its business. But we're not there.
Seems like it'd be logical to look at that.
Anybody has on these ones?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know them personally, but I have visited
I mean,
places.
does that have, does it with contractor?
Oh, now the contractor, I don't know what he would bring.
That his insurance, that Jeff would sign off on? We can't find nobody even mow the side of the road, Mark Park Meadow has insurance.
Right, I am.
Somebody's in that business, I don't know if they do that.
Oh, yeah, I just wonder if you know anything about it. You know anything about it?
I don't know.
Roger Westside. Roger Westside. Give Roger a call, we could probably buy 14 of these things.
What about this, how many pound excavator is it?
Wow, you've got my sheet, let me, no, I've got those. In the
Or what size?
320,
Pardon?
a 320, CAT 320.
Okay, so, and the reason we're getting a CAT 320 is because we have these narrow places to get in. Narrow, that is a relative term, because you're not gonna put a 320 in something.
Well, again, the basins are approximately 30 to 40 feet wide. So we spec these, I didn't give you these, but these are the specs on the 4 excavators that we've looked at. It's 18 foot 8 inch boom on each of them. So if we can get half from one side, half from the other, and of course if it's dry weather, we can walk into the edges of the basin, so long as we don't tear up too much grass, and get near points of influence and effluent.
So the narrowing is in the basin itself, not
To the channel.
to get to the.
Yes, it's in the channel. And basically there's a path wide enough to take a dump truck. This thing makes a big S shape, and then you got little islands, not islands because, or peninsulas, I suppose. But we can walk anywhere around the pond and access it from both sides of the channel.
And remote control board, does it have to have an operator?
Yes, unfortunately.
Say 2 AM or something.
No, they're working on GPS where these things can program themselves, and they'll just go mow till the battery runs dead, come back and charge and go again. But that's not quite there yet.
We'll work to the community there.
Well, they're electric, so yeah, we wouldn't set up outside somebody's window with a gas pellet mower.
You mow up and down or sideways?
These will do either way, but
If you mow up and down, do you mow down and then back up? You know, how track machines do, you
Right.
turn it,
yeah.
hold the slow.
Well, with the track machines, we've been mowing side to side so that we don't get that rutting at the top and bottom. And like I said, the nice thing is, because the center of gravity is so low, they're not nearly as heavy as a manned piece of equipment would have to be for stability.
It'll be dead on that, have to run around that thing.
the ones we've demoed are in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. The one I'm waiting to demo is about 30,000. Now, half the price could mean this guy's not trying to kill me, or it could mean he manufactures a real piece. So we're waiting to find that out.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're pretty cool. They go places that, you couldn't even start with. These steep banks that you weed and stuff, they don't mind at all. I think
More 40%. You know what kind of warranty?
it varies, but that's obviously
By the hours, by the time.
hours.
Somewhere, it takes.
Well, no, it's going to be, it's going to be a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Or if you get so many hours, probably given about 1,000 hours a year, maybe less on a mower. It's going to be several months of downtime.
How you doing, man?
We're not.
No, they want to keep it clean and manicured. Would it be beneficial for stability to let shrubs grow?
Well, shrubs are a different thing. You cannot have woody vegetation on it. Woody vegetation has a taproot. The taproot can go and create a channel for water to get to garbage. Sounds crazy to me too, but that's the right. Can't have woody vegetation. The problem, we used to mow twice a year, and I'm talking the C&D landfill, Old Highlands, Old Franklin, cell 2, we make our laps around. And what we found was only mowing twice a year, the grass gets so tall that when you mow it, it kills everything under it. So we've had a lot more success moving to 3. And of course, with something like this, it's going to be easier to get to it 3 times a year. Because we're not, we're coming up on 5 landfills to mow and a lot of buffer around the new cell. Like I said, it'd take us probably all summer to get around to everybody twice. These we can put them on a trailer, drive it up to Highlands, knock it out in a day or 2. That's the other big thing is the Massey Ferguson, which is aged and down right now, fairly extensively. We have mowed the tops and places that we feel safe, but the slopes are just kind of doing their thing. What I don't want to have is what we have in the existing landfill, where our dike is, got old growth forest on it. It's actually good for stability, but not exactly actually. Plus, nobody sees that slope, and everybody's going to see this slope.
Part of the process, got to maintain.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's going to be a lot to maintain. It really is. I didn't necessarily anticipate how much steep slope we were going to have, but it's trying to work ahead and work it into the design of building future ones in a way that kind of makes sense and holds the edges where you need them as you move through the progression.
It's going to be for 50 years too, right?
What's that? The landfill? Oh, the landfill. Well, do you want to talk about HB 56? Yeah. It may last 300 years. I just don't know who's going to pay for it.
You'll be paying out the number for as much meditation as
We're exempted out of that, but I don't know why they did it. I do know why they did it. It has to do with one landfill in one place.
one county.
I'm just introducing it. I'm actually talking about it.
That's what the legislation's all about. To throw that out.
Well, they dulled down the legislation so much. It's easy to get out of, except for one part. and it's a ridiculous notion. I spoke to Senator Jackson's office today, which I've preached for years. You can't compare a private and public landfill. They bury trash. We bury trash and run a transfer station in Highlands and have 11 convenience centers and recycle and have the state mandated money-losing recycling of $40,000 a year for e-waste, losing $10,000 a year in scrap tires, abolishment of the White Goods Management Trust Fund. I mean, there's all these things they make us do, which costs money.
What they need to do is go on and read this bill, because you see what was added on to this bill. What they do, they combine all these things, this was added on, it would pop up and go away, pop up and go away, pop up and go away.
It went through about 10
This was added
different
on in
bills.
pitted county against county. I think some of our legislators won't vote for this. But there's other things, they had it before.
Right.
They would have it.
Yeah.
And it pitted county against county, there was like 7 different things added to this bill. If you read this bill, I'm not sure they could. But if you read the whole thing Saturday, one and the other, you can't make it. And so, there's, everything was lumped into one bill. And so, it pitted a lot of counties that didn't want to vote for HB, got 5, 6, because it was one county. They knew that would affect the whole state. It's going to affect us sooner or later.
Sooner or later. I mean, I don't want to be over dramatic, but, you know, I pitched y'all 2 years ago on building a 60-year landfill, and if this bill had been, if this was law then, I might have had a different story today. I mean, it could be impactful down the road.
See, they couldn't even get read to see them. So they added all this other stuff in.
Yeah.
And now they have to, so.
Well, apparently, from what I've learned over the last few years of watching this stuff, you let stuff simmer all year, throwing in an omnibus bill on the way out the door, and that's how most stuff gets passed, apparently.
I think it was a veto, the governor veto, the help road. But they got that stuff like the help road. Anyway, so what do you want to do here, Chris? You think it's to the county's best benefit to buy this equipment?
Yes, sir. Like I said, what you're approving tonight is just our ability to buy the equipment with those funds. I mean, I'm ready to pull the trigger on an excavator, with
Who
like.
owns the equipment, the county or who owns the equipment?
We're still going to have to go through the bid process, the public bid process. At this point, there were strings on how that money could be used that could qualify. And it could not be used for this purpose without the bank's approval, without the LGC saying it's okay.
But they said we okay.
And of course, the commissioners say it's going to be okay to use that money in that way as well. But I think ultimately, there's still that process of having to put these purchases out for bid, and we'll have an opportunity to look at those and either accept them or reject them.
So these are in the enterprise fund, that ultimately is a county fund.
Yes.
But the county needs it in this equipment anywhere at any time.
Oh, God, don't say that out loud.
It is for equipment.
That bill may come back too.
Direct to make a call, that we need it more.
Yeah, I'm not, you know the bill I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. People trying to abolish enterprise funds because somebody's more on the airport down east somewhere.
That's right.
So how quickly do you need to act on this? Is this something?
Basically, right now, it's just trying to get this step taken care of so that I can commence with, I mean, I have 4 prices for excavators that are all on state contract. And so we can go with that, we can bid it if you want, or, you know, whatever. But I would like to try to get the excavator before winter sets in, you know, October, November, somewhere in there. The mowers, ships kind of sailed this year, but we'd certainly like to get a jump on it February, March.
My only thoughts, I mean, to me, the excavator, you know, there's multiple uses for it, but, I mean, would it be too much to ask if you could go back and look and see what it would cost to contract this and all that?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, you're not approving me buying anything, just giving me the ability to use.
Yeah, once the
That money.
gate's open,
Yeah.
I found here once you ever open the gate, there's no closing.
This is a formal bid, though, the equipment will be a formal bid, it's gonna have to come back to you guys to approve. You can't just go out and buy this without coming back to you.
All these pieces going to be in excess of.
No. Well,
The excavator, yes.
the excavator certainly, the mowers potentially, unless we go with that one. No.
What do you think, Mr. Egan?
It's just a place to run that landfill. He knows the laws and the requirements, permits and all that better than we do. I see you're with this. No problem, I mean, just part of what we gotta do.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion, sure.
Second.
I would shoot the cat.
Does Lori need to tell them what their motion is?
I think the motion would be to approve the resolution as presented. It's starting the process. Why'd you pick the cat?
No. I just said cat because that was the top one. But I'm just if they were low. So.
All right, discussion, further discussion. Personally, Chris, I'm in agreement with this. I think we give you their flexibility as managers to run this to the best of your abilities. Just because I am in a little bit of that industry, I agree with Commissioner Gillespie that I think we ought to investigate that just for safety. I know what you're going to be spending on repairing the stuff with the locusts and the other items, and drainage ditches, the erosion ditches you're going to be running into. It's going to be a constant issue. And then the same thing with the excavator too. If you use it for every day for other stuff, I think it makes sense. If it's going to be sitting 30 days and not firing it up, then it makes more sense. And I know you know that. So again, I just think we want to see you dot your I's and cross your T's and that type of thing.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay?
4-1, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Chris.
Item 11B, discussion regarding South Macon Elementary School.
Mr. Chairman, the liaison committee, you've heard, and I think you did this year, we had talked about, I think the board was aware that during our discussion with the budget about South Macon School, and they were going to wait and see what the enrollment numbers were for the lower grades and for the need for an addition. After those numbers come back, and they decided that yes, it was the need for an addition. They would like to look for an addition for around 9,700 square feet, along with an additional 1,200 square feet for addition to the cafeteria. So we know how long this process takes when we start a school project. So Mr. Shields and I have talked to Mr. Baldwin, and what we would like to do is authorize this board to authorize the school board to go ahead and we get a quote from an architect. They choose the architect, the school board does, that's just the rule. And they choose the architect, go ahead and get a quote from an architect. So if we start the process now, if everything goes well, we might start construction in the spring, maybe. We know how long it takes.
They're going to have to put out a request proposal for architectural services. One thing we need to think about, past projects that the county's going to end up undertaking to do the construction, which I suspect it will. Those architectural services are going to need to be able to be transferred
Just like we've done always. And I understand there might be some QZAB money available.
Yes, sir.
So is that,
QZAB, you can't use it.
Yeah, QZAB's for existing footprint only.
Yeah.
oh, that's for renovation only?
Yes, sir.
QSCAB?
Yes, sir. There are no QSCAB funds that I can find on there.
That's for new. So anyway, we'd like to have, I think we just want approval to get the school board approval to advertise and to get some posts back for architects. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, I think you need to let them understand that
Here we just like to all.
we're in support of the project.
Yeah.
Which is basically,
They're looking at, we don't know what the costs are, but looking back, and you're probably looking around $200 a square foot for the main, probably $200 a square foot for all of it. And then that, you gotta know that school is now about 20 years old.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So you wouldn't think that, but it really is. And so and that school is on its children, we need to remember that. And the problem that comes along with that. So and I mentioned to Tracy and Mr. Baldwin and our manager too, that it's time to probably really have an engineer really look at that and make sure that everything works properly with that thing. And if you remember, there was some problems with that, I don't remember when it was built, there was a problem with that. But they improvised and did different things, so I don't know where that stands. I'll talk to Tracy a little bit about it. What I'm asking the board to do, and Ms. Shields can speak to it, and Ms. Manager, you certainly can, is just authorize the school board to advertise for it. Architectural fees. All right,
with this board likewise, want me to go ahead and speak with Mr. John Henry Jr. about the paperwork that would be necessary, the interlocal agreement to get this project done.
You should have a stack about that towel about what we've done over the past 10 years.
The bottom line is that process needs to get started pretty quickly.
So we're doing this because they're at capacity, exceeding capacity, and I presume that there's no room at the other schools.
Well, and if you know, the farmer, they've got children who are, yeah, and Mr. Team, our farm marshal, has done, he's got them to, he's letting them, I consider it a violation, he's charging, but children need to be questioned by us.
We got a motion from you, second.
And Dr. Ball is not here tonight, but he's aware of what he's been tonight.
I'm familiar, just speaking with a few of the school board members, any further discussion?
Is this, I know y'all as liaisons, but I'm not familiar with it. Is this the preferred option? I mean, are there any other options other than this? I mean, Iowa, East Franklin, or any
Not
transferring or shifting?
Not for this amount of children.
No,
This
sir.
is 6 classrooms.
Having,
Six.
how many kids, how many children are you needing?
Well, there are 3 classes that are not in classrooms right now. They're in other spaces that South Macon has adjusted to work as a classroom.
It really just makes sense. This is such an easy place to do an addition. Or if you look at this school, it just makes sense, like everything else we tried to do since we started all these schools. If you want to do that and build this corridor, if you're going to come out with this corridor, if you're going to put 3 classrooms here, you might as well add some figure for a little expansion down the road for the next 10 or 15 years. So if you put 3 classrooms on the other side, you lose probably half the amount of square footage now you can in the future. Same thing on the cafeteria. Both of them are, if you're going to put an addition onto a school, probably the easiest thing you've ever put on in South Macon.
Yeah,
That's
what
one
I
thing we did.
What I was getting to though is East Franklin, is it
Is that
valid?
the
It has yes, sir, it's at capacity. Cartuga J is also. The one that probably has the most space is Iola. It's the newest, but they're closing in on that. And to move all the districts to alleviate the overcrowding at South Macon and move it to capacity to Iola, you're going to be affecting Cartuga J, South Macon, and East Franklin. To adjust the districts to move that, the students from South Macon, bump them all to get to Iola to fill up a classroom or 2 there, but you're still going to be at capacity at South Macon.
And you wouldn't have to, I think that's right, if they looked at all the numbers, even if they done that, you might not accomplish what you're thinking.
That's correct.
I mean, that's it, you know, we sort of build them in anticipation.
What is that, septic or sewer? Outlet, the sewer, something.
South Macon is the sewer.
You stay on.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, item C, Mr. Decker, vacation.
Yes, sir. The folks at Health and Human Services at the state level are asking DSS and Health County holiday schedules have been approved for 2018. So what I submitted to you was simply a proposed schedule for 2018 that follows a state schedule in the same way we've had for the past 6-7 years. Number of holiday stays that work.
Motion approved. Motion approved. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? You good? You want to talk about it?
No.
You good?
I just don't say this, but it's 4 or something with you.
All right, item D, wastewater treatment at Nantahala.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Mr. Gibbs and Mr. Fay here with us tonight. If any of you aren't aware, I think that we can all safely say that the wastewater treatment facility that is currently being used by the Nantahala School is in need of repair, a complete overhaul, if you will, and Mr. Gibbs has found a way to accomplish this through grant funding, through a CDBG grant. And as he was going through that process, Mr. Fay from the county has been through that process many times. It's what he does there in the housing department, and he has worked with Mr. Gibbs to get this ready to go. And at this time, I'll just ask Mr. Gibbs to fill us in on what's going on, the grant, what it's going to do for Nantahala, and what it's going to be required of this board.
Yes, sir. The community development block grants are federal money. These infrastructure grants are being administered by the state. You can correct me anytime if I don't get this right. He's got a whole lot more experience than I do. Went to a meeting Winston-Salem a couple of months ago, and the meeting involved Department of Environmental Natural Resources, talking about these grants. And in the audience were nothing but educational people, because these grants are aimed at infrastructure support for schools and school systems. I was working on it, had some questions on the application itself. 3 weeks ago, called Julie Cubetta, who was with Diener, and she said that really the counties, this is federal money, and really this money is awarded to counties, to not the school systems. And my thought was, why didn't you tell us that 2 or 3 months ago? So then I reached out to Mr. Fay, Mr. Rowland, and they've been gracious enough to really help me through it. But Mr. Fay has much more experience, and he could probably talk about more of the requirements of the board than I could to make this happen.
This is not unlike the CDBG single-family rehabilitation program. If you recall, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, the legislature took all that money away and put it into infrastructure. They no longer were they rehabbing houses. So as a result of that, they went into this wastewater and freshwater program, and they have a special section, CDBGI, that is for school systems. And basically, they can be pretty complicated in that Mr. Gibbs has already done a tremendous amount of work in collecting this stuff and really kind of dotted the i's across the t's. But also he's aware of what happens when dealing with these types of grants. You're exactly right. You find out about a lot of stuff afterwards. So I don't want to sit here and say that it's a smooth road all the way. So knowing that up front, the thing that I going through the application, I see that the board, and I'm not sure exactly because of the time constraints, we're talking October 31st, the application has to be submitted. In order to do that, first off, the county really needs to, you all would need to officially assign somebody to represent the county. It'd have to be by proclamation. You'd have to vote on it and say, this particular person is going to be representing the county on this grant. From everything I've read, I don't think it has to be a county person. In other words, you could, from what I can gather, you could select Mr. Gibbs to continue on with the process and go through with it. But there needs to be official action taken on that. The other official action that needs to be taken with this grant is going to be officially adopting the results of the public hearing that's being held. Now, that's kind of hard to do with the public hearing. That's why Dr. Baldwin's not with us this evening. He's in Nantahala conducting the public hearing around this. Mr. Gibbs is informing them up there and the principal of what the criteria needs to be covered to satisfy this grant application in this public hearing. So at some point in time, between now and October 31st, the board would need to adopt the minutes of that hearing that's being conducted. As far as official action, that's basically it. Sign somebody, select somebody that you want to complete the application and make application with the county, and then somewhere between now and the 31st, adopt the minutes of that the public hearing that's taking place in Antioch.
So the language you want to use, John, is to select someone to represent the GDBG
Yes, sir.
request? Is that how you want to put it, or?
What they're, if I can give you this language from here.
What's up? Oh, you go.
It says as authorized representative, he or she has been authorized to file this application by formal action of the governmental body.
So he's representing, title resident of the county, or would it be your title able to do that?
Actually, according to the way this thing is worded, and from what I've seen, you could have anybody that you wanted to.
No, we don't talk about what they're doing.
Well, no, that's probably not a good idea.
So you know, would it be you, John, that would carry the water on it, or? Who would carry the water on it?
Well, Todd has done all of the technical, and he's aware of the technical aspects. I'm aware of the CDBG process. Pardon?
You're happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Remember, this is just for the application for the grant.
This is the application for the grant.
And
the grant
to do it?
Yes, sir, I will do that.
That's it. The application's everything.
Yeah, it makes or break it.
As we well know.
That's it, yeah, I've been through that one.
He will, I mean, I don't want to say you go do it if you're not in, but if you're interested, and that's
Yes,
great, man, that's $200,
We're applying for $200,000.
yeah. That's,
It's all grant, no match.
and the plant's gonna be replaced. What you're saying is the grant application is not to be made by the school board, but instead the county.
The county is
Yes, sir.
eligible, whereas the school board itself is. They are eligible through us.
Is there any security that has to be given for the grant?
No security, the only thing I've seen is assurances. And that's it.
What do we need to do about the meeting?
So can we authorize, Mr. Turner, can we go ahead and approve those minutes that are taking place tonight? Now? Why?
Can we vote?
If you could show me what they are.
Well, I bring out anyone. Mount residents voiced their concern over the sewer plant and want to replace it.
Can we authorize the county manager to do that?
The problem is I've not even seen the grant application. I don't know if
If
anybody
it
on
says the
the
board has to vote on it, you better let the board vote on it. You know that for
What's-
the entire period.
That's exactly right. And one of the things is
Another
that,
thing I'm a little bit concerned about is again, I've not seen the grant package, but I'm a little bit concerned that if the entity applying for the grant is not the one that held the public hearing, I'm a little concerned there. It may not be a problem, but typically the entity applying for the grant
holds the public hearing.
And all, from what I've been through, as far as all the materials that they've made available to us for the application, they don't cover that. But there may be some legal issues as far as the actual federal government
And it
goes.
may not be a problem at all,
Right.
but I guess what I'm saying is the county might want to take a real quick look at that, because if there is a concern there, it sounds to me like we've got to get, we have to have a hearing.
Mr. Mayor's gonna go ahead and do all we can do tonight and let the county attorney look at it, and then when we get the minutes, can we vote on them?
We both vote on them by consensus and then ratify it at the November meeting. If we get a unanimous, you send out an email poll to vote.
One of the things is with
There's not anything to vote on. There are no minutes
To
to
accept,
approve.
to when they become
When they become available.
Can I send them to the board via email? And if,
What is the requirement of the grant?
Okay, the grant, as far as what we'll have to have, we're gonna have to have documentation that shows, from Mr. Becker, that will show that there was a vote held and that they adopted those minutes from that public hearing.
There's no minutes.
Who will be living minutes?
and designate.
I mean, after not to be minutes. And so what Derek's asking, can we send those minutes out by email? And let's vote on them.
You need to, before the 31st. What I am saying to you is, first of all, there needs to be minutes. I don't know what the approval is. I mean, it is the approval, what is the approval intended to be?
They put this in red in their information. And why they say adopted, I don't know, because it sounds like you're saying you agree with what's in there. And basically, the way I understand it is you're not agreeing, you're just saying that, hey, we held a public hearing and what you've adopted
And
is
you
the
said you
framework.
didn't hold a public hearing. That's my first concern.
Well, let's see, it says a copy of the advertised notice, which Todd has, and the minutes of the public hearing adopted it says minutes of the public hearing adopted by the unit of general local government. So it's saying, it didn't say where those come from. It says the local government unit adopted those. Or you could,
They're having that meeting tonight.
yes, sir. Right.
What if we, that's what I'm thinking, is what I mean, typically, when you're sending in minutes of a public hearing that was required as part of the process, typically what you are saying is, this is what happened at that meeting. We're certifying that this is what happened at that meeting. We were there, this is what was said. This is a fair statement, if you will, of what happened in that meeting. Not anybody in this room that can say it.
Let's do this if everybody's in agreement with it. I mean, this is $200,000 to replace this system. It's not going to require a match. I mean, it's a home run.
Right.
Why don't we let Chester review that grant application, review the public hearing, and see if that will, see if that's going to hold up for this application. And between now and then, if we need to call another meeting before October 31st to approve those minutes, or if we need to set a public hearing before October 31st, or both, then we can do so at that time.
We have a problem if we do have to do another public hearing, we've got to hold the public hearing when we advertise it. You got 10 days, and that's got to happen within that time period. If not,
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 21 days, so that's why I'm saying something needs to be looked at immediately.
right, right.
So if the board's in agreement, that would be what I would recommend.
So we'll just recess tonight's meeting. And we may have to meet back.
Well, we have
to.
You don't necessarily have to recess it, what we
Special
call a
meeting.
special
Yeah.
meeting, and we can address it in a special meeting if that's necessary.
All right.
Good job.
Are you gonna vote on Todd?
Do it all at one time.
I mean, you're gonna have a meeting.
Well, all right, why don't we go ahead and nominate?
Go ahead and vote on Todd.
Or does it have to be one action? I mean, we do it Yeah, and I'm assuming the school board would be in favor of that as well?
Yes, sir, I would assume that also.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye. Congratulations, Todd. Thank you. Thank you for
was
staying
really
on
easy.
this pod and John.
Thank you. I think we're working together. I think that's a great, John, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for
Thank
bringing.
both of you. for
I mean, you know the next
what you've
done
done
by.
already. Appreciate that.
We've done this radio before.
You've been down there, we've been down that road time, so you know the lick is done by.
All right, we'll get a motion to approve the
Who
consent.
has that grant package?
John, who's got the grant package?
Actually, Tyler has the whole package. I've got it in, basically the blanks on
We
the
get that
package.
digital.
Yeah, that'd be great. You will fit work on it.
Get
Thank
it to
you.
me and I'll get it.
Second.
Take a motion to approve the consent agenda unless somebody likes something removed.
So moved.
Motion approved in a second. All in favor? Aye. Appointments, community funding pool.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd just like to take a second to give an update on where we're at in that process. The community funding pool, as we've made mention a couple of times of getting that committee, kind of bringing some organization back, looking at what was kind of going on and where we wanted to head in the future. And in doing that, we looked back, and the first thing we attempted to do was find the governing documents of the community funding pool. And we've come to find out that there is no formal set of governing documents. There is excerpts from minutes that begin back in 2000 of the process of appointment for the community funding pool. And essentially what that said, in 2000, there were to be 4 members from the community that represented the community at large. There were to be another 4 members that represented nonprofits. And there were 4 members specifically designated to represent the Macon Program for Progress, the Peggy Crosby Center, and the Macon County Community Foundation, and the Volunteer Council, the Franklin Volunteer Council. Well, in doing a little more research, we found out that the Franklin Volunteer Council no longer exists. And as we were looking back through the documentation we have for the community funding pool, we found that it had 8 members. 8 members is what we had on there. And again, there was that 12-member requirement that I just specified. Furthermore, we found that the members that were on here, some had moved away, and all of the terms of the members had expired. So I made contact with each one of the community funding pool members, or someone that knew, hey, this person had moved, I spoke with this person a while back, they're not willing to continue, they're having issues, whatever they might be. But in speaking with that and trying to nail this down, was able to speak with Ms. Karen Wallace, who has submitted an application to the community funding pool to continue her service there. Bobby Contino, who also has submitted an application, and Jennifer Jones, who has submitted her application as well to continue service on the community funding pool. In addition to that, I kind of went out and talked with some folks from nonprofits, tried to solicit some applications, and what I have now is a commitment from the 3 representatives for the Community Foundation, the Program for Progress, and the Peggy Crosby Center have received a commitment but no application at this time, have received applications for 4 community members, and have received applications for 4 nonprofit members. So with that being said, again, the Volunteer Council of Franklin no longer exists. What I would recommend, we do have these applications that I just mentioned. We are waiting on some more applications. And while we are waiting on that, in an attempt to kind of formalize, if you will, the actions of that committee and have something that spells out the committees that are to be represented, the terms of appointment, and the process that goes through for reappointment, just kind of clean it up and get everything in order through a formal set of governing documents. I've spoken with Chester. He would be willing to do that. And at the end of the day, we hope to come to you in November, at the November board meeting, with 12 applications that satisfy the requirements of what is there now. We're thinking that we will eliminate the Volunteer Council of Franklin, since it no longer exists, and make that slot a community member slot. If we do, there's an application that's turned in right now that would satisfy that requirement. So in doing this, if Chester and I could work to get these governing documents established and get that ready to go, then we hope to come to you in November with the applications, the formalized governing documents for this board, and be able to proceed with the press release for applications for the nonprofits that will apply to the community funding pool. Hope to get those out immediately. Look to get those back in February, and potentially the board could be looking at approval in March or April. And that is not a time frame that has not been. We've had that same time frame in the past, and so it's not. It is urgent, but we're not behind the gun. We'll work forward, get this thing cleaned up, have it ready to go, and be able to move forward with that, with the formalized process for how we do business on it.
These documents you and Chester are going to draft the founding documents that outlines.
Yes, just basically memorialize some of the pieces that have been discussed and approved by boards in minutes throughout the years that we had to go back and look through the minutes to find. Kind of get that all together in one place so that we can go to one document and see what members are represented on this funding pool, see what the term limits are, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it'd be likely nothing more than a resolution that would essentially identify the organization as the advisory board and what provide what responsibilities would be and how the board would be formed. But no guidelines for applications from nonprofits or a process for awarding it. Have as many of those things as you want in that resolution. And I think if any of you commissioners have some thoughts about that, we encourage you to provide those to Derek, and those can certainly be topics of conversation for potential inclusion in that resolution. Yeah, we got to thank you for
just
putting
wanted
that
to
together.
bring you up that we have got, like I say, we've received 9 applications of commitment for 3 more. So we've got this thing in the red zone. We're just going to take it on in November.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
All right, moving on to the Economic Development Commission. Looks like we have 4 appointments. All of them look like reappointments to me. We have the town of Franklin, their recommendation of Barbara McCray. We do each one of these individually against Chester.
Motion to approve it.
Second. Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Second one's from the Highland Area Chamber of Commerce, for Bill Futrell.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second from Commissioner Higgins. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Franklin Area Chamber of Commerce, for Jim Breedlove. Motion approved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And then the third one is, I believe, an at-large member. It's a reappointment for Brett Murphy.
Motion to approve it.
A motion and a second from Commissioner Shields. All in favor? Any reason for closed session?
No, sir.
So we are going to adjourn in that recess.
I think calling a special meeting would be most good appropriate.
A motion to adjourn, second, all in favor? Enjoy it, gentlemen. Quick meeting tonight.